Comedy Quest. Gather round, let's make it clear. Comedy Quest in the house, lend the ear. Paulie D on the mic, don't you see? Comedy maestro bringing all the glee. 20 years strong, the comic sage. Movies, TV, radio, taking center stage. From K-Rock to Stern, yeah, he's been there. Spreading life everywhere. Stand-up gig, clubs, theaters, nationwide. Making people laugh, taking them for a ride. Writer, performer, he's got it all. His humor is bound to go make you fall. Gather round, let's make it clear. Comedy Quest in the house, lend the ear. Paulie D on the mic, don't you see? Comedy maestro bringing all the glee. So tune in now, don't delay. Comedy Quest is on the way.
Hey there, this is Comedy Quest with your host, Paul Delangelo. Thank you for listening. This has been brought to you by Truck Stop Vampires, and we got a great show today. First things first, I want to talk about 9/11 and how our country was after 9/11, because I think that is the most prolific thing that happened out of 9/11. And I'm going to touch on a couple stories that I have never told that happened during 9/11, because I was up there in New York right after it happened. I have friends of mine that worked on Ground Zero, and I actually had another friend of mine who worked at World Trade Center Plaza, and I have a couple stories about some stuff that had happened. I actually have another friend of mine who worked on a lot of secret black budget projects at that time, and I'm going to tell all these stories. But the first thing I want to say is that I want to give my condolences to all the families who had lost loved ones during that time. I want to send my love and prayers out to all the people and families, the first responders who are still dealing with the pain of their loved ones they lost, and are still dealing with sicknesses and injury due to rescue operations on 9/11. I have a family member who is a New York City police officer, and he actually has a rare form of cancer today due to 9/11, him being there with the rescue operations. I'm going to touch on this real quick before I tell the stories that I'm going to tell, but on 9/12/2021, 9/13, 9/14, 9/15, everyone in this country banded together, no matter your race, your age, your sex, your sexual preference. It did not matter. We all banded together like brothers and sisters. And this country is at a tipping point right now. And we need to do that again. Because as horrible as 9/11 was, and the lives that we lost, and the destruction that was done, something beautiful actually came out of it the days leading after. And everybody in this country stood together hand in hand, no matter who you voted for, no matter your color, your race, your age, if you were gay, straight, none of that shit mattered. Everybody stood together as a country, helped one another out. You didn't hear any of that shit. Oh, who you voted for, how arguments, people being racist against if you were transgender or gay. No, none of that shit went down. We were just worried about the families and the lives that were lost and the destruction that happened in New York, and us standing together as a country. And that's what we need to do again. We need to learn from the mistakes of the past, and we need to also learn from the good things that we have done in the past. And that is something that was really good that came out of 9/11. And unfortunately, 22 years later, we have gone full circle and back to not standing hand in hand and fighting amongst one another over stupid things like sexual preference, who you vote for, fucking age and race and all this shit that shouldn't matter. Because we're all human beings, we're all brothers and sisters, we all live on this fucking planet together, and we can do anything when we do it together. I'm going to get into my stories right now. I'm sure a lot of people don't like what I just had to say, but I don't care. It's the truth. You know, I mean, put all our differences aside. we stand together like brothers and sisters and maybe treat each other with a little more respect and love, we can make big strides as a human race, but not like this. Now, unfortunately, this part of my show may not be that funny because I am talking about 9/11, but I'm going to tell some stories that I think are really interesting. Like I said, I got a story that I'm going to tell about a friend of mine who worked on black budget secret projects during 9/11 and ended up retiring because of what happened in New York City in the Pentagon. I got a friend of mine who worked at World Trade Center Plaza when the planes hit, and I got another story that I'm going to tell you. So let me get into my stories right now. This is Comedy Quest with your host Paul Delangelo, once again brought to you by Truck Stop Vampires. Go to truckstopvampires.com right now and check out all their new music that is going to be released over the next few weeks. Truck Stop Vampire rocks, and follow them on all social media. I wanted to tell a story about 9/11 and something that is really interesting that happened to me. So I'm from around the Philadelphia, South Jersey area, and at the time, a girl who is still one of my best friends in the world was living and working at the World Trade Center Plaza at that time, and we were basically, kind of as close to boyfriend and girlfriend as you could get at that time. Well, I was living down here in South Jersey. She was living, I think, in the west or the east side. I used to stay up there constantly, and she would come down here and stay, but she was working at the World Trade Center Plaza. And that morning, it was right before I started doing stand-up. 9/11 had happened, and I was driving a uniform truck. And that morning, one of my first stops was a oil refinery down here in South Jersey. It used to be called Coastal Oil Refinery. I think it's called like Sunoco or something now. And when I first got there, one of the guys grabbed me and said, "Listen, get the fuck out of here." And I remember I was listening to Howard Stern, and I was like, "What do you mean get out of here?" And they were like, "No questions, you just gotta leave." And I was like, "All right." And I'm leaving, and I remember Howard talking about the first building got hit, and they thought it was kind of funny, and oh, well, building got hit before, back in the day in New York City, and, blah, 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 blah. I'm leaving Coastal, and the second building gets hit. And I had stuff at this oil refinery I had to get and pick up. I had, deliveries and pickups. And before the second plane hit, I had stopped. When the second plane hit, one of the supervisors came over and they go, "You got to get the fuck out of here right now. Leave everything, get the fuck out of here." So I'm driving now, and I'm listening to Howard, and they're freaking out. So this girl, who I absolutely still to this day adore, love, I was like head over heels in love with her at the time. And I knew she worked there, and I tried to get in touch with her, and I couldn't get in touch with her. So I get done work, all day long. Every stop I go into, I'm singing on the TV. The planes got, we got hit, this, that. And at the time, nobody knew exactly, but I'm looking at the horror that I saw, and all I can think about is, I hope she's okay, and then the fucking buildings collapsed. And, I had a lot of friends that worked up there, and I had a handful of friends who lost their lives that day, and, still to this day, it's fucking crazy. So finally, the day goes by, and I can't get in touch with her. Her mother calls me. Her mother's flipping out. She can't get in touch with her daughter. So I was like, fuck this. I got to go see if she's okay. So I drive up to New York after work. They wouldn't let me in the city. I had to go all over the fucking place try and get into the fucking city. I couldn't get into the city, but I could smell the smell. And anybody who was there and was in New York, there was a smell that is just indescribable, you know, between just death and rubble. And so, but I could see the city from across the river, and I could see the smoke and everything like that, and we still can't get in touch with her. So I drive the fuck home, and the next day, I finally was able to get in touch with her and drive back up to the city. And I go in the city, and they let me in. And I actually had signed up to be a responder and try and help. So I get to her house, and she's flipping the fuck out. Flipping out. Off her rocker. The taxi cab drivers knew, Paulie. I said, what are you talking about? They knew. She goes, me and my girlfriend. Now, her girlfriend's there. They work together. They used to go to work together every day, come home together every day because they lived near one another. She goes, we get in a taxi in the morning, tell the taxi where we're going. The taxi cab driver goes, I'm not going to the World Trade Center today. So I don't think nothing of it. They get out of the taxi and they jump in another taxi. Taxi says to a new taxi driver, says to them, no cabs to the World Trade Center today. I go, what the fuck? What are you talking about? We got to get to work. And she's fighting with the taxi cab driver. Taxi cab driver goes, I'm not driving you to the World Trade Center. You got to get out. So they get out and they get on the train. And when they got off the train, the first plane had hit the building. And they're like, what the fuck? They saw the first plane have fucking hit. They're walking to fucking work. The second plane hit. So they got the fuck out of there. Luckily, they got out of there with their lives. But they were flipping the fuck out. And to this day, will tell you that they got in that taxi. And both taxi cab drivers told them, we're not going to the World Trade Center. And that was before the planes hit. Now, anybody who knows where Building 5 was in correlation to the World Trade Center knows that it was pretty fucking far away. And Building 5 that supposedly held all the evidence for the $1 trillion that Bush and his fucking counterpart lost all got burned up in that Building 5 along with the Pentagon. Now, I'm not saying that our government made that happen. I'm just saying that there's a lot of odd things that don't add up. And were conveniently in their favor. Also, I have a friend of mine who, at the time, worked for the government as on special operation, black budget programs. Really couldn't talk about stuff. But what he did was, not long after 9/11, he retired. And he was the guy who a 5-star general would go over to and give him something to do, tell him whatever he had to do, and he had to keep his fucking mouth shut, and he had to do it. So after he retired, I was over his house one day, and I was asking him why he retired, and he said, I'm going to show you why he retired. So he sits me down at his computer, and he starts showing me video of airplanes that they tested flying into a brick building and what happens to an airplane. And the airplanes are like fucking disintegrated. Then he shows me video of 9/11, and you could see the tip of the plane come out the other side of a steel building. And he says to me, Paulie, I can't get into detail, but I will just tell you that I worked on hologram programs out in Arizona and New Mexico. And after 9/11 and seeing the destruction, I don't know if our government was involved, but I know the technology that we have. I know that airplanes cannot fly through a steel building and the tip of the plane cannot come out the other end. I know that we could make it look like there's 100 B-2 bombers flying over a fucking city and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. We can make it look like there's a UFO flying somewhere and you wouldn't know the difference. He said, now I'm not really allowed to talk about this stuff in detail. And ever since then, this is the first time I'm ever telling this. And I'm not going to give his name or anything like that, but I've never really told this story before. And he said to me, I don't know if they were involved or not, but I know they could have probably stopped it. And I feel like they could have stopped it. And he said, I've given all these years of my life to this country and to our government, and I have kept my mouth shut about everything that I worked on. He said, but after this, I no longer want to work for this government anymore. He said, I just can't stomach it knowing what I know. And he fully retired, and he never went back. And when I was doing the Miserable Men show up on Sirius and Howard 101, I actually brought him on the radio one day, and he told some stories like this on the air. And Al Rosenberg kind of got a little upset because he was talking about a lot of conspiracy, and by that time he started getting a little goofy. But he told these stories, and Al nephew was in the World Trade Center and had passed away, but we did bring him on the air once, and he told some of these stories about when he worked for the government and how he felt 9/11 really went down, and how they used explosives and holograms and all that bullshit. You know, I just want to say that I know a lot of people lost their lives that day. And to the people who lost their lives, to the families who were still affected by it, my sister-in-law's sister, her husband is a police officer in New York City and has a rare form of cancer, and it's from his work on 9/11. I also have another friend of mine. I'm going to tell another story, but I want to say to all the people, the families, you know, this is a sad day and we should never forget about it. And to all those people that were involved in 9/11, I want to send my love and condolences to all the people that you had lost, because it was one of the most horrific days in American history. Now, I have another friend of mine who, when the cell phones did not work, my buddy was one of the guys who was putting up the satellites all around New York City to get the cell phone service back up. He also had a camera, and he was taking pictures. So he was the guy who was up like 60, 100 fucking stories on the side of a building, putting up a satellite so people could get cell phone service. So one day, he was taking pictures while he was up there a lot of days, because sometimes he would just be stuck up there for a while after he did what he had to do, and they would have to come and get him. So he had a camera, and he was taking fucking pictures. And he still got these albums of pictures, and the pictures are horrific. And when I went up there, what I saw with my own eyes, people dead. You know, my sister-in-law's family had a body hit their fucking car while they were driving. I mean, talk about horror of horrors. The people that were there experienced some of the most horrific things that you could possibly experience. I saw with my own eyes, dead people, body parts, destruction, you know, and I didn't even get to see everything. So my buddy's up on a building, and he's taking fucking pictures, and da-da-da-da-da. Well, one day, all the work stops. They tell everyone they get the fuck out. Now, he's up like, 20 fucking stories. They were still looking for bodies, looking for people to save their lives. This is literally like 3-4 days after 9/11 happened. We ain't talking about a long time. 4 or 5 days stops. They stop all the fucking rescue. Tell everyone they gotta leave. And my friend's got the pictures to prove this. And if I got to, I'll see if he'll give them to me to post. All these army trucks pull up, and he's taking pictures of it. All these army trucks pull around Ground Zero, and all these army guys and military guys get out, and he's taking pictures. He's just sitting there waiting for them to get him off the fucking building. All of a sudden, a Black Hawk helicopter starts coming towards him. The Black Hawk helicopter stops right in front of him, points their gun at him, and says, "Get the fuck down or we're opening fire, and put your fucking camera down. And when you get down, you gotta turn your fucking camera in." Now, He puts his camera down. He's scared shitless now. Finally, he gets down. While he was going down, he took the fucking film out or something and hid it somehow. And put some, I don't, somehow he flipped out the film so they couldn't see it. And when he got down, they took his camera and they took the film out that was in there. But he still had the film of the original pictures. So he's working there for a little bit, and he finally asked his supervisor one day, what the fuck was that all about? Like, they stopped saving people for all these fucking trucks to come in. He said, well, underneath the World Trade Center was basically all these vaults that held gold from all these countries around the world and our country. So they were getting that, and they didn't want anyone to see what they were doing. So they came in, and apparently, according to him, this took a long time. They were there like a whole day recovering this shit out of these vaults. And no one was allowed to rescue anyone in this time. No one was allowed at Ground Zero. So in the middle of trying to rescue people and save lives, they had to stop and go in. Now, I was not there, so I don't know this 100% for a fact, but I see no reason for him to lie. And when he told me this, it seemed awfully genuine. He wasn't the type to lie, and he had pictures of horrific things of Ground Zero, and he had pictures of the Army trucks coming in, the Army trucks in Ground Zero, and all the military at the bottom of Ground Zero. So, you know, there was a lot of things that raised eyebrows that happened with 9/11, and still do. And people who were alive and involved in it, I think it still resonates. And that's why this day is even more important. But the biggest thing that I remember about 9/11 is as horrible as it was that we lost the lives that we lost. The whole country stood together, hand in hand. Didn't matter how old you were. Didn't matter your race. Didn't matter your color. Didn't matter your sexual preference. Didn't matter your sex. It did not fucking matter. Every American in this fucking country stood hand in hand together and said, we're gonna fucking get these motherfuckers back that killed our fucking brothers and sisters. It didn't matter if you were from New York, if you were from Iowa, if you were from fucking California. It did not matter. This whole fucking country stood together as brothers and sisters, no matter what, your race, your age, nothing, and nobody cared. We just stood together and said, we want to defeat whoever came in and tried to fucking kill us, and whoever is trying to hurt our brothers and sisters, who hurt all these people in New York, who destroyed these buildings in New York. We stand together. There were parades, there were fucking everywhere, every school, everything. Everyone looked past everything that we focus on nowadays. That's what we got to get back to. That's what we got to get back to. If it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, nobody cared. We stood hand in hand together as Americans to defeat evil, to be bound together as a country. And you know what? It was one of the coolest things, and still to this day, it fills up my heart because I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember everyone standing together. Nobody was fighting with each other. We weren't fighting about who we voted for. We weren't fighting about stupid shit like race. We weren't fighting about sexual preference. That's what we got to get back to. If we want change in this fucking country, if we want change in this world, if we want to leave this world a better place for our kids, this country being a better place, if we want better, we got to stand together like that. We got to put our stupid differences aside. We got to stop worrying about fucking race, sexual preference, sex, age, all that shit. We got to do exactly what we fucking did after 9/11, and we need to stand together as a country to defeat whatever evil is trying to bring us down. And we need to stand together. We need to look at the mistakes of our past and try not to repeat them. But we also need to look at the good in our past, the things that we have done right and good. And that was something that we did right. We did good. It doesn't matter whatever conspiracy you want to come up with 9/11. It doesn't matter why, who, where, how it happened. We lost a shitload of people's lives. We had 2 fucking buildings, multiple buildings in New York destroyed. We had people's lives destroyed, and they're still dealing with this shit today. It doesn't matter how it fucking happened. It fucking happened. But we need to look at what we did the days after as a country. And we stood together as a country. No matter who you voted for, what your color was, who you wanted to date, none of that shit fucking mattered. And that's what we got to get back to. If anything, 9/11 could teach us that we could do anything as a people, as a country, as long as we do it together. Just like our forefathers did when they created this country, just like we did after multiple wars. World War II, we defeated the Nazis, just like we did after 9/11. If 9/11 could teach us anything, and if we want to do anything to commemorate those people's lives, it should be what we did the days after 9/11, standing together as a country and stop bickering and hating one another for who we vote for, what our color is, what our age is, race, sexual preference, all this stupid fucking shit that doesn't matter. Because it didn't matter then. It didn't matter on 9/12 and 9/13 and 9/14, 2001. Nope. You didn't hear anybody fighting about, you want to date a man and you're a man? Oh, you're gay, you're fucking black, you're Latino. You didn't hear any of that shit. And I know because I was fucking there. Nobody was talking that shit. Everyone was like, we got to get these motherfuckers that killed. We got to all band together now. It don't matter if you're black or white or fucking Latino or gay or straight. It don't fucking matter. We're brother and sister. And we're fucking banding together. That's what we got to get back to. And that's what I wanted to say about 9/11 and commemorating it this year. 22 years. I can't fucking believe it. You've been listening to Comedy Quest with your host, Paul Delangelo, brought to you by Truck Stop Vampires. Go to truckstopvampires.com right now. Get some new merch. Listen to some new songs that are coming out real soon. Check out the videos. Truck Stop Vampire rocks. And thank you for listening to my special 9/11 edition of Comedy Quest. Sorry that this episode might not have been that funny, but I wanted to tell some stories. Thank you again. This is your host, Paul Delangelo, signing out for this episode. Have a great night.